Welcome to the Therapist Thrival Guide. My name is Miranda Barker. I am a licensed clinical social worker at Ellie Mental Health, and I'm here with my co-host, Lucas Vellini, LMFT.
Hello.
And today we are talking all about couples therapy and specifically the Gottmans. Lucas, who are the Gottmans?
John and Julie.
And why are they important? Who are they?
The Gottmans played arguably, I would split it between the Gottmans research and Susan Johnson's work with EFT, but between those two bodies of framework, or between those two frameworks, they really put couples therapy on the map. And when I say the map, I essentially mean credibility in healthcare. You know, prior to that, couples therapy was something we knew was helpful. It made sense theoretically, but we didn't have the data to demonstrate its efficacy, especially when it came to its effect for addressing individual impaired mental health within a couple's context. And so it really gave the MFT profession the leverage it needed to start petitioning managed care companies to start reimbursing for family therapy.
Wow.
Because now we had the evidence base to show them of why they should be paying for it, you know? And so not only that, but I think what EFT is more so focused on kind of the healing process and moving people from a strained relational style to an improved upon relational style. What the Gottmans did was not only identify predictors that lead to divorce, but they provided us the framework of relational health. So they gave us kind of the targets of what we needed to know within our relationships of what we need to work toward. You know, what are kind of the universal factors that transcend the specifics of a relationship that if everybody was investing in and being more thoughtful around, you know, we would see marital health and just health within and during intimate relationships improve. So yeah, their research is phenomenal.
I'm so excited to dive into this episode because Gottman, I was first introduced to Gottman as a non-therapist, reading What Makes Love Last with my husband, and have since read it 4 or 5 times. I love that book. But now as a therapist, I'm not personally a couples therapist, but I have seen how important Gottman's research is and how his methods are to couples therapy, like what Lucas was saying. And so I'm excited to dive in. And today we have Eva with us. Eva is a clinic director from our Ellie in Austin, Texas, and she is Gottman Level 3 trained.
Yes. So I started with the Gottmans in graduate school. It was a presentation on the Sound Relationship House, and I was like, this is very practical.
Yeah, it's super practical stuff.
It was so that, so that when you are with a client, it's something that they can grab and my clients love. As it progressed, as like the first level, you're just kind of learning the Gottman methods and the background of the Gottmans, 40 years of research. Julie and John are just amazing. I always say, you know, those celebrities you want to meet, I would love to meet the Gottmans. So I actually had the pleasure of being trained by, we call her Dr. V. She's been in couple therapy for over 30 years. First time I met her was Gottman Level 1. And then as it progressed, you know, I was very intrigued. Like I want to help more with the couples. And COVID, of course, happened. And so I was seeing couples in addiction also. So it's like, I need to know more. I need to learn more. So I went to a level 2. I actually worked in a hospital setting. When COVID happened, I was running a hospital as a clinical director, all admissions and assessments. So I'm an LPC. So I got my hours done very quickly. So as it progressed, I was like, man, I want that connection with the clients again. So did a little private practice with Dr. V, got my level 3. And then as I was saying, I'm very much into addiction too and how it affects the family. So I got trained in couples and addiction also through Gottman's.
So tell me a little bit more about what these levels are and like what is it 3 different trainings? Is it over a period of time? What does it look like to be trained in the Gottman method?
So with the Gottmans, it was, I learned level 1, then went to 2, then just recently did 3. They have it to where you can do 1 and 2 together, and it's a lot of information brought to you. And then level 3, once you're up to level 3, you get to be accredited with the Gottmans. You literally are showing, you're practicing recording those interventions and then sending it to the Gottman Institute to be that you are practicing these interventions appropriately, and then you can teach it. I was at, I'm a level 3. You have a period of time. I want to go back out there and do it and work with my couples with Gottman.
So what time, how long does it take to get through those levels? Is it like a period of a couple years? Is it faster than that? What does it typically look like to walk through those?
It matters on the individual. So, again, I was, working and going to school and doing practicum. So I did 1, then kind of got closer to graduating, did number 2.
Okay.
And then after I graduated and pursued on to see more of a private practice, then I got level 3.
Okay. And is that like an in-person one-day training, or is it?
No, it's a 3-day training, all-day training, and then it is role-playing and proving to my instructor that I know these interventions.
Awesome. So,
Oh.
What level do you have to reach to meet the Gottmans?
I would love to say level 3, but I think more of to be even accredited, that would be very, very few people are accredited. So that might be, but I'm willing to go and get that level just so that's an opportunity.
Awesome. So do we want to dive into the research or the methods first? Where do we want to start?
I'm really tempted. What would be the first question you'd ask them? Sorry.
No,
like this.
So when when you do the trainings, you get to see them doing the interventions. And, sometimes when you're with couples, you're like, okay, this one is really hard. I would love to ask Julie what her most difficult couple was and how what methods she used to progress them on. And then John also, just his research and emotions and reactions in the Love Lab, and how it progressed. And when was the turning point for him that he wanted to invest all this 40 years to focus on couples? What was that moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, John and Julie, if you have an answer to those questions, you can email me at creative@elliementalhealth.com.
I'm sure they watch every episode.
They probably do. Yeah. No, I love it. That's great.
So the research, it's pretty vast at this point. And as the research evolves, it's not always introducing new concepts necessarily as much as it's their effort to continue to resubstantiate. So everything's constantly still going back through the scientific method. They're always gathering more data just to bring more depth to their findings. They're always, reconsidering hypotheses and whatnot based on the data. I think initially, John's research on emotion was kind of mind-blowing in the sense of how they were able to predict divorce in couples just based on body language that's present in their interactions.
Well, so let's take a step back. What is the Love Lab?
The Love Lab?
Yeah.
There's the notion of the Love Lab as it exists in my mind, which is what I would like for it to be. I would imagine it's just a typical building with rooms where they do their research.
So it was in Seattle, and I have never got the pleasure of getting to see it, but they literally watch interactions with couples and doing where the sound relationship house is and how they communicate, turning towards and turning away, their fondness and admiration, the emotions that they've seen, and then the 4 horsemen, So they were actually observing different couples and their interactions.
A lot of cameras.
Yeah.
So my understanding is it was like an apartment that looked, or like a room where they would have couples stay in for a period of time. They would be recording them, and then they would essentially put a numeric value to different responses or different facial expressions. And they would then they would have researchers pore over this video and assign different values to, the different reactions and the different things that they were seeing on tape. And then they were able to kind of break down so many of these interactions and then say, those are the couples that are getting divorced based on how he did this, like what you were just saying, Lucas,
the presence
turning
of
away.
contempt, pretty much.
Exactly. And then they were able to also then turn it around and say, these are the couples that are actually able to make love last. And they...
It's trademarked. I wonder if we can get in trouble for that.
Hey, this is like an advertisement for that book. It's everybody go buy it. It's so good. But then they were able to say that these are the predictors of a healthy marriage. And this is how these are the different ways that couples are turning towards each other. And so because of that research, they were able to, yes, predict divorce, but then also, come up with all of these different methods. And you've been teasing us with them a little bit, Eva. Do you want to jump into
I do just want to mention, as you said that, just to reiterate, what's so important about what they did was it wasn't just figuring out what's bad in relationships and trying to stop doing the bad stuff. Because a lot of therapy models, they're much more focused on unhealth, and what's maladaptive and stop doing that. But then they don't always cover the other end of what should you be doing instead. And you can't base a marital philosophy off of things that you shouldn't do. It's that needs to be part of it, but you also need to know the things that you should be doing intentionally. And that's where their research really, helped to evolve therapy into not just being about symptom reduction, but elevating health, and getting them to a place of health that they had never quite been before. And just I also want to share that when I think of the Love Lab, I imagine it as the set of Flavor of Love.
Yeah.
I don't know what Flavor of Love
Flavor
is.
Flav.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, right.
I do.
Are you even a millennial?
I mean, just barely. I'm
okay.
There's some arguments on.
It was one of the first reality TV shows of dating.
Yeah.
Everyone competed for Flavor Flav's love.
What was this on? MTV. That's what I was going to guess. Yeah. That was blocked in my house.
Oh.
I had to watch MTV at my grandma's house. She couldn't figure out how to block things. So.
Yeah. What stands out to you? What are your highlights of the research?
The highlights of the research would be the Sound Relationship House.
What is this?
So it is literally a house, and my walls are trust and commitment. And sometimes when we come into couple counseling, we need to communicate. A lot of times our communication, our life has gotten busy. We are not, communicating as we were, so we're having difficulties. That trust is that you got my back. You got my back, and the commitment is literally it's me and you, and it's a journey. This is our journey, and sometimes our walls can get a little bowed, but we can fix those walls, right? So we talk about it. We start with the love maps. And love maps is literally when we started dating, hey, what's your favorite dessert? What's your favorite color? You're talking about these questions. And with my couples, they, when I first meet, when you first meet, we do a background history, when you met, the things that attracted you to each other. If you got married, what was it about you that said, hey, I want to marry you? This is a lifelong journey with you. But the love maps is literally getting back to asking those questions. If you're married 7 months to 17 years, start those questions hey, what's your stressors this week? What's your secret ambition? What are some of your goals? Because, so we ask those questions. And when you're asking that question, you're investing in your partner. They love that you care about them. And it builds on the other floors of the house. So it goes to then fondness and admiration. Fondness and admiration is literally that heart emoji. That is, the sticky is baby, you look good today. or, hey, I really like the way your hair looks, and we can compliment each other. Fondness and admiration is literally those check-ins, and everybody likes, we like to get back, because when we first start dating, we do that, right? We do like, hey, that dress is really cute on you. Like, you like to hear this, and then the next level is turning towards or turning away. So I'm a positive girl. So turning towards is, hey, I love that Ellie elephant. That is really cute. And my partner would look at it and go, yeah, that is really cute. And like turning towards and looking at it, that I had a bad day, you rub my back. You kind of, those little things mean a lot to us. And that's building that friendship. Building that friendship again, 7 months, 17 years, 32 years. It's keeping that friendship going. You're my best friend in this journey. From that, it is turning towards is the positive perspective, the emotional bank account. We all like to put deposits in our bank, right? Mm-hmm. The more deposits, the better, right? So, on average, she is saying 5 to 1. So give me 5 compliments, because there's going to be a negative. And so those positives, it does reinforce. So in conflict, 5 to 1, or sometimes 8 to 1. But positive perspective is, again, we're having good moments and having those times so that, hey, when something is said or something's taken out of perspective, it doesn't hit so hard.
Yeah, and I love the 5 to 1 ratio. What I think is so brilliant about that is it shifts the couple's focus from like avoiding conflict or not doing something that's going to be conflictual, because that's a horrible way to approach a relationship, is try to avoid any conflict from happening, because conflict is inevitable. It's inescapable. It's going to happen. So instead of putting your energy toward avoiding conflict or trying to diminish conflict, put that energy toward just being constructive and positive and making those investments into the bank account, because that's what will offset the inevitable conflicts as they arise. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot more control over making the investments than we do in preventing conflict.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so like when you have those positive, sometimes it is, I hope you have a great day, or that kiss in the morning, the kiss goodnight. Those are all the deposits in my bank account, so that when the day comes and maybe something negative happens, it's not going to hit me as hard if I have so much negative already built in. So that partner, that kiss, that heart emoji, those little things, and it's whatever each couple needs, goes a long way. Mm-hmm. But from the positive perspective, it's managing conflict. So when you're my friend and I'm turning towards you and I know you're invested in me, when we have a conflict, we're gonna stop. We're gonna talk about it. We might not see it the same way, and they call it symbolism. So intimacy to me might be you hold my hand. Mm-hmm. Intimacy to my partner might mean sex, but we talk about that, the different points of view. And so managing conflict, and sometimes it is, okay, you see it this way, I see it this way. Where is my core beliefs? And we talk about that. These are the things. I'm not like the no-go area. This is my core beliefs, but this is my flexible area. And it's just a compromise. It's not meaning I'm giving in. It's just meaning you're my partner, and we're going to try to work this out. So we come to a compromise. And then from there, it is... we have our dreams, and so that you support me in my dreams. And it could be like, I want to be a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor. And so I'm going to share that with my partner. Okay, what are the things we need to do to get Eva to that level? And you're going to support me in that. The last one I always say is the addict. Those are those memories that you make with your partner that you share. I always say back in the day, and when I'm older and my grandkids, I'm going to share these things I did with my partner. So it's that shared meaning. So it could be us wearing matching PJs. Mm-hmm. It could be us going like, we both want to go to Europe backpacking. These are going to be memories we're going to share with us. But we have shared meanings. I have dreams, and then we have our shared dreams, and we're going to share those.
So is this a tool that you will like walk through each step with your couples?
I do. So as I have couples, I currently say see, and I was like, we're building on that. So sometimes when we do the love map, I literally, I see couples in person. I love it. And I was like, I am not here. They turn towards each other. They communicate. We talk about the 4 horsemen I can get into. But they turn and they communicate back and forth. And it's like no criticism, no blaming. This is how they feel. And then I have them, after you talk, your partner's going to say what you said. Because maybe it wasn't perceived the way you want it to be, so they share. And then when they do that, you will watch, the turning towards, you will love maps, you see the progression up, and the smiles come, and the aha moments. And, again, it's my job is to work myself out of a job so that they don't need me.
I love, it is super strengths-based. It's super normalizing. And when you practice purely from this method, or even if you just integrate it, like what I think is super helpful about it in the first session with couples is they have, going to couples therapy, I think is one of the most anxiety-provoking dynamics of therapy you can go to. And so they have a lot of stress going into it. They have a lot of worry. There's a lot of ambiguity surrounding, will this work? Will it be helpful? But especially when it's 2 people who come together because they are there to work on the marriage and improve the marriage, you get to reframe it from them thinking that they suck, that they're crappy at being married. Maybe they're a bad couple. And instead, you just introduce a lot of this research to them. And typically, like, their eyes start to open up. They're interested. They're intrigued. And then you just talk about the absurdity that they've never heard of this before, that nobody knows this stuff, that it's like, it would be super helpful if the entire planet like had this knowledge going into marriage, but it exists like behind this curtain of, providers, the small percentage of folks who go to grad school and get exposed to it. That's why John and Julie have been intentional to write a lot of general trade books for the general public.
Yes.
Because they are helpful tools. And, it's like one of the few books in the self-help category that is empirically informed, and dense in that regard. But it's just, it's giving them the tools to do good that they never had before. It's like they want to be better. Nobody ever told them how.
Yeah.
And it's like, now we can just give them those resources, and it's more of a, I just didn't know. Now I know. And so it's empowering, it's inspiring, it's tangible. And especially for people just getting into couples therapy, because it's so practical and tangible, it's a great place to start.
I agree. And that's where it was graduate school. And I'm like, okay, I was on the child adolescent unit and didn't think couples were my thing until the Gottmans came along, and like, I love it. When I help the couple, I help the family. And so if I teach them methods to communicate, and then I think I've shared with you, it's like, you can share that with your children. Let's sit down, let's talk about this.
And so much of it is translated to healthy parent-child relationships too. Even like a couple months ago, we had a guest on to talk about attachment, and what you were describing around kind of like the positive bank deposits was so much of our conversation around like, you've got to be having positive interactions with your kids and like trying to enjoy your kids so that when those hard times happen, you can pull on the good attachment. You can pull on the good interactions and the memories. Because let me tell you, if I only had bad interactions with my 2-year-old, or if like there were really hard things that constantly happened with her, I was talking on that episode about how sleep has been really difficult in my house with my 2-year-old recently. And like, she just wants to lay in bed and play. And, I have to go in and put her back to bed over and over and over. But because of, like good attachment, because of having some good memories or knowing, like being able to pull on the good times, I'm able to pull on that reserve and be more patient with her. And so I think that what you were saying before was how a lot of these things really do help the entire family, and a lot of the different, things that the Gottmans teach can be translated to the family as well.
I agree.
And that ratio, I think a good way to really capture the meaning of it is to reverse it in the sense of, if we're constantly in conflict with our partner and every 1 out of 8 engagements, it's a positive interaction, it's like we don't really care that it's positive because we're just so overwhelmed by the constant negativity that is just absorbed in the dynamic. And so when you inverse that, you know, it's like when that one conflict pops up 1 out of 5, 1 out of 7 times, it's like we're not really terribly fazed by that because we're organized and our homeostasis is much more in the positive and the constructive. And so we have far more resources to deal with conflict when conflict is the exception to the norm of positive interaction.
Exactly. Absolutely. So what are the 4 horsemen? What was that analogy?
So the 4 horsemen, these are the things that they've seen that can cause the major demise of a marriage. But at the same time, they give us the antidotes, the things to rate, you know, like, hey, this is maybe a negative, but this is how we get it. So there's criticism, and it's literally like, you're so lazy. You know, so those negative, it's a negative comment.
You loaded the dishwasher wrong.
Yeah. Again. So it is that soft startup. And I think we all use the I statements. I love I statements. Even with my kids, I feel about this and this is what I need. And because I always say we're not psychic and we can't read minds. So tell your partner what you need. It's like, hey, you know, I feel sad. You know, about the garbage not taken out, like, because I'm really big on keeping a clean kitchen. That's what John says that Julie likes to. So I really need you to take out the garbage. And then sometimes when you have that criticism, the defensive comes in. It's another horseman.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, oh, I didn't take out, I'm not been busy. And then again, it's just taking accountability. It's like, you know what? I did leave today and I didn't take out the garbage. I'll take out the garbage now. Taking accountability on it.
I think anybody who's in a relationship, take some time every now and then dedicated to examining all the ways in which you're probably a difficult person to live with. And that you're probably a difficult person to get along with on a daily basis, and just kind of humble yourself to those qualities.
I agree. It's like the toothpaste isn't rolled up, seats up, the seats down, you know, who's taking out the garbage, who's doing the laundry. It's just talking about those things. Contempt is the one that is brutal. It is. It's you thinking in the relationship that you're more superior. It's like, I don't even know why I married you. I should listen to my mom. Like, it's like, I don't know. You're the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. And that's the difference between criticism and contempt is criticism focuses on something the person did, whereas contempt is more of an all-encompassing, like, this is who you are.
Oh, sure.
Like, I'm not, so like when I'm critical, I'm mad at something you did. When I reach the point of contempt, it's like, I pretty much loathe you as a human.
How do you get to contempt? Like, what breeds contempt?
Waiting way too long to go to couples therapy.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I totally agree, because then you'll have them come in and it's like, okay. And I say, hey, that's contempt. I'm like, okay, let's just flip it. Like, I'm your boss and I just said that to you. How would you feel? Well, I wouldn't like it. Well, that's what you're doing to your partner. And so again, it's like, what are your needs? And the being able to talk about it, and it's working through that. And then the last one, stonewalling, and it pretty much sounds like it is like totally disconnecting.
I'm fine.
Yeah, fine. Like our teenagers, fine. I'm just fine.
I'm fine.
But you're not. And one thing that I loved, because I do have the medical background, is that they found in, like, when people say that, take their pulse. Their pulse are high. And they are literally, a lot of time with stonewalling, it's that contempt. You keep coming at me negative, I'm going to shut down. What I love also is they share flooding. And some people, it's a total different, is that when someone hits something with contempt, those emotions come. So I do the little finger here, draw imaginary line, that's amygdala. That's where they're at, right? So they're in their emotions. You can see that they're flooded. Their heart rate's up. They're internalizing. Some of us are hyperverbal when we're flooded. Like, I'm going to get this out. We're going to finish this. And some of us shut down because it's so hard to hear what I just heard from the person that I love, right? So when you flood, it's like, hey, no, stop. We're going to self-soothe. And it is, in a couple sessions, I stop it. I'm like, we're stopping. We do the deep breathing. We do the muscle relaxation. And I share with their partner. It's like, okay, have you ever had a panic attack? Have you ever felt anxious? Now I'm going to give you a grocery list, and you better not forget anything. So you can't process. You're not in your frontal lobe. So respect that. Give them time to calm down, and we can talk about it. Because when we're in our emotions, we're going to say things we don't mean. And like we give our kids time out, our 2-year-old time out to process. Give your partner that. Give your partner time.
And, to kind of dig into contempt a bit more, because that was a good question. Like, how do you get there? And it does happen over time. It can happen gradually, but then, all at once.
Well, and just to say too, I feel like contempt almost reminds me of like burnout or vicarious trauma, where at times it feels like it can be a slow burn towards that. And when you talk about vicarious trauma, you talk about how it's like a change to your worldview.
Yeah.
It's not just that you I could work at my job every day and, feel like I should get paid more, or feel like I, put in long hours, and sure that that leads to burnout. But vicarious trauma is something where you you think the world is no longer good anymore. You're like, I'm dealing with the worst people and everything is bad. And so in my mind, the way you're describing contempt is similar, where it's it's been a slow burn to the point where you don't think that this is worth it anymore. And it's a change to maybe not your worldview, but a change to how you view the person.
I would absolutely agree that it ultimately comes down to your worldview, because, well, at least from my perspective, as you read about contempt, and contempt, that's an extension of philosophy. I think ultimately what we're talking about is whether or not you believe that people truly can be all bad. That would be the fundamental belief that somebody has either implicitly or intentionally landed on, is that some people are all bad. Some people might be all good. My partner is all bad.
And so I have a friend who is currently going through a divorce, and some of the conversations that we've had are similar to this, where sure, she was noticing things along the way. She was getting frustrated. Nothing was changing. And now the conversations that I'm having with her are more about it's hopeless. It's he will not change. And so it seems like she has gotten to the point of contempt in some ways.
Maybe. I mean, and maybe one of the reframes I would give there is, it's hopeless because you won't change. It's yeah, but it's why did you marry someone that you needed to change? It's he just never became the person that you hoped he would become. And that's why so many marriages fail. It's we don't marry people because of who they are right now in this moment. I mean, people do, and we should. But, when we're in our 20s and our brains aren't fully developed yet, and we haven't worked through any of our unfinished business from our family of origin with our parents, it's we marry someone who's good enough, typically a reflection of those disowned parts from our, mom or dad, with the expectation that, within a year or two, they're going to mature and become the person that I actually want to be married to. And so when that person doesn't live up to that standard, it's well, you're bad. It's I'm losing hope, I'm giving up. And sometimes you should give up and move on and find someone you're more compatible with. Next time around, don't marry someone based upon their potential. And the thing about contempt is it's super harmful to the individual as much as the relationship. It's harboring that much resentment and negative emotion inside of you will eat away at you. So it's not just a relational issue. And when people have a hard time addressing their contempt within a couple's setting or a couple therapy dynamic, I mean, oftentimes I'll de-emphasize the way that it shows up in the relationship and just talk about it with them as an individual. Does it feel good for you to carry this? And it doesn't. It's a horrible emotion to carry with you. And contempt, once you reach it, it's a pervasive emotion.
Well, how do you deal with contempt? If you
forgiveness, humility, accountability to the role that you played in it. That's what I would say. I don't know if that's what the Gottmans would say.
And so,
I'm level 0 Gottman trained.
So, and when it gets to level contempt, I always say, okay, that must be really hard. Let's talk about what other the levels. And we break it down to what the levels that got us there and talk about their feelings. It's like, and sometimes those sessions are, like I always say, the first session we talk why they came into session with the Gottmans. There's a method. And then I see them each individually. And so I get to know their history, some of their beliefs, some of their childhood, their core values. And then we come back together. The Gottmans have an awesome where they do analysis to the sound relationship house. And the couple can see where they actually break down on that sound relationship house. And I can tell you, my couples love it. Like, they're like, yeah. And they'll agree. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, this, I like that. And then that's where my treatment plan comes in, because they're on board 100% of, yes, we really want to work on this. Yes, we really want to work on this. And you will see, I'm like, okay, cool. We're going to do some homework. But that first initial visit with them, it is bringing back on, like, when did you meet? What was it that attracted you guys together? And sometimes those memories get pushed to the back. What was it about, Eva, that you decided to push it to the next level, marry me, or, move in with me and buy a home? The Gottmans even have where bringing baby home, like when we go to that level, yeah, things change, but we work on it as a couple, and we talk about those changes together. Maybe we're going to take turns getting up, but they literally have it to where you can, you talk about those things as we progress. They have an app for your phone. My couples have to do homework on that. We do love maps and open questions, date questions, and as we progress to that intimacy, I watch the intimacy come in. It's the salsa, so it's mild, medium, and that you can see the interaction to where we're having sex again. Yeah, we're having this, and they'll come in and they're like, yes, we did this card and this card, and whoop, it took us to this level. Yes, that's what I want to hear.
I am so amazed at how many tools the Gottman, what is it called? Like the
Gottman method, I think.
Well, just whatever. Yeah. Like how many tools they have with,
interventions, and they have the card decks. Their card decks, again, back in the day, I started before COVID. So I actually bought the cards and my couples would do them. Now it's actually a phone app, and of course everybody's on their phone. And we do it. I make them do it. And first we start session. I'm like, okay, a couple love questions to start. You see the smiles. You see them turn towards. You see the sound relationship house and practice. Like, okay, I need you to do this 2 more times this week.
Oh, that's cool. They also, just to put a plug in, they have an email list, and every month they give out a free tool to use with couples. And so I don't even work with couples, and I'm on this email list because I really like the tools that they send out.
Yeah, and sign up, because that's the only thing you'll get for free from the Gottmans.
Except, actually, that's a really good plug. If you are listening to this episode on the day it's released, we are actually doing a Gottman book giveaway. And so you can head over to the Ellie Mental Health Instagram page for more information on it. But we're giving away 2 of their books. And so hopefully you're listening to this, in October when this comes out. And
Miranda's going to autograph them.
I am not, but I will be the one personally sending it to you. So there you go. Gosh. Okay. So I feel like we could just go, there's so much to the Gottman method. There's so much to the research. What do you feel like, what are we missing? What other tips?
Perpetual irreconcilable differences. That's one of my favorites.
What do you mean? What is that?
There's like a short list of things with your partner that is just always going to drive you crazy and they're never going to change. And so you can make yourself miserable by, resisting this immovable part of your partner and just hoping and pleading that they'll change one day. Or you can just put it on the short list of irreconcilable perpetual differences, accept it, and find a way to, see it as at least endearing in some capacity.
Is that a Gottman thing?
Yeah, I don't know if it's.
They literally, if you do the couple analysis, it breaks it down and it will show you the stats on it. But that's where we do the compromise. Yeah. And it's talk about my values. It's like, okay, we are arguing that I don't want to go to my in-laws every Christmas. There's, I can do Christmas here where, the compromise that we have, core values. Why is it that I'm so strong on this? Why is it so important to me? And then again, the flexibility, because again, it's a perpetual problem, but how can we have that flexibility in working through this together as a couple? And as, I say, as a team, we're a team.
Yeah. And so get to know what your own, what your qualities are that's on your partner's list. That's kind of what I was saying before, like what makes you annoying to be in a relationship with. For me, it's definitely one of them up there is just my immaturity. It's like I'm 35, and if I'm still this immature, it's not going to change. So that just needs to be embraced and accepted. And it's relieving too when, like when my partner can name what one of her perpetually irreconcilable differences toward me. It's like it almost gives you like a sense of relief that like, okay, gosh, I don't have to put all of my energy into trying to change something that's so deeply embedded into my personality that it's exhausting and will always be ineffective. Like you'll always regress to the mean when it comes to this stuff. I think the Gottmans have also done a lot of really good work when it comes to sex and sex and relationships and marriage. And I haven't seen a ton of their videos. One of the videos was John pretending that him and Julie were porcupines.
I didn't see that one.
Because the way that porcupines like organize is if the male wants to breed with the female porcupine, like it's not oh, hey, like you're in heat, I'm a man, I'm here, like accept my seed. It's like the male porcupine needs to go through quite a bit of effort to like warm up the female porcupine, to enter a state of openness, or even desire to want to do it. And in so many marriages, it's like there's this entitlement to sex. And when one partner who wants it isn't getting it, they get all crabby and mopey, and start to pout about it instead of doing what they need to do to address the things that are getting in the way of their partner's desire to want to engage in that with them, but also intentionally do the things that they know will excite their partner. And it's not always, like sexual or romantic. A lot of times it's, have your partner come home to a fully cleaned house and you finishing up the dishes with a freshly cooked meal that you've prepared for them so they can have relief from one of their tasks for the night. It's like, that's foreplay. It's like, that's how you start, kind of juicing things up, later on into the evening. Is just by seeing sex as more of seeing foreplay as a far more extended process that doesn't start when you both hit the pillows.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, again, they have the salsa and way that you talk to your partner about the things, maybe sex in my 20s is not the same as sex in my 50s, but like, what do I want with my partner? And we're open and honest about that. Yes, you holding my hand and rubbing my back, that kind of just brings that like, man, the attraction we're turning towards, building that when we first met, I was like, yes, it brings the sex back and talking about intimacy. And then again, what are the things that I want in sex? Sometimes couples, even married, have a hard time talking about sex and what they want in that relationship and that connection. I'm like, let's talk about sex. What is it that you want out of it? And what do you want out of it? And talking about the foreplay.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're in your 50s, your sex should be much better than it was in your 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll agree.
I love it. Well, this has been so good. Thank you so much for joining, Eva. Any other last tips or anything else you'd want to plug before we close?
And of course, I'm big on the Gottmans. Just know that, going into it, the research is there. The research is there, and the couples, when they're going through this, they're in their emotions. To give them something that's practical, give them some of that homework, and bringing back those fond memories that attracted them does wonders. And again, the couples will come and you see the smiles talk to me about what attracted you to this person. And you have them talk about the things that attracted them and then bring that back into the relationship.
And I just want to throw out there that if you're working with couples, if you're working with individuals who are coupled, it's like familiarize yourself with Gottman's research.
Amen.
And you don't, it's going to be indisputably of significant value
even
to your
if you
practice.
yourself is coupled.
Oh yeah, like just as general knowledge, it's super helpful and important. But any clinician in any context, and you don't need to become a level 1, level 2, or level 3, Gottman method certified provider. It's like if you want to invest in that, you're going to be far more effective at utilizing what they've been able to come up with. But I don't know if you asked this question this way, but if you were to recommend just one book for clinicians to read, if it's the only Gottman book they ever read, what book would it be?
It would be the Making Marriage Work.
The 7 principles.
The 7 principles of making marriage work, because literally it is breaking down the sound relationship house, giving you interventions, giving you homework and of things that they can do. And sometimes I like sending out to the couples. They're coming in and telling me how much they enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you both so much for talking about this important research and these methods. And yeah, I'm excited to jump more into couples therapy, the topic of couples therapy this month. And thank you so much, Eva.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eva.
Thank you.